tonight. Saskatchewan continues to dig out from heavy snow as another storm system eyes our province. And how did the COVID-19 pandemic start? A Saskatchewan research team has some answers.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, November 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thanks for joining us. The first big snowstorm of the season has hit Saskatchewan hard, leaving behind icy streets, stuck vehicles, and a lot of frustration. Commuters are still struggling to navigate roads, and as Aishwarya Duda reports, there may be more snow on the way.
People are still digging out from the season's first big storm, and another system is heading our way this weekend. Regina Public and Catholic schools canceled bus service Wednesday, saying streets were just too dangerous. Meanwhile, drivers in Saskatoon and Regina are facing treacherous conditions.
This stretch is very bad every winter, It's my second or third winter here in this neighborhood, and every time when it's a little bit windy, nobody bothered to come here for at least a day or two, So look at this one.
And it wasn't the first time he's been stuck this week.
Yesterday, a friend of mine, the one who came here to help me out, he pulled the two vehicles. Yeah. And there were 7-8 vehicles were stuck here at that time. Then at the other intersection as well, on the other side, the city bus was stuck as well, So the things were really bad since yesterday.
Towing companies are working overtime to help rescue people stuck in snowdrifts. In Saskatoon, Astro Towing says they're completely swamped.
I think around rough number yesterday, we probably between 350, 400 calls we completed just yesterday alone. It's going to be happening for probably a few more days. And with the snow here on the weekend again, so we'll get round two.
The worst may be over for now, but meteorologists warn more storms are on the way.
The next major system we're tracking is heading in for the weekend, which is going to bring quite a bit of snow to most of the southern portion of the province and central portion of the province.
If you have to venture out in the snow, make sure you're prepared. Experts say vehicles should have a safety kit with food, water, a heat source, blankets, and a shovel in case you get stuck. And don't forget to keep an eye on the highway hotline as we get closer to the weekend. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And here's a look at some of those snowfall totals that we've seen over the past couple of days. This is as of Wednesday morning. Strasbourg and Emma Lake up around the 20 centimeter mark. Regina, we got in the range of about 15 to 20 centimeters. Just east of Norquay on the other side of the Manitoba border, about 18 centimeters there. Vibank southeast of Regina, about 11.5 centimeters. On Tuesday, we had to contend with some pretty strong wind gusts as well. Estevan nearing the 100 kilometer an hour mark, and those winds in Regina, Weyburn, and Yorkton making it difficult at times to see on the roads. Now, this system has largely shifted into northern Saskatchewan, where another 10 to 15, maybe even 20 centimeters is possible for that part of the province by the time we get into Friday morning. Total snowfall amounts there from this system in that part of the province will be reaching, in some cases, possibly up to 50 centimeters. And as Aishwarya mentioned, there is another system on the way. I'll have more on that in your full forecast coming up. Well, while the snow might be causing trouble for some, conditions like this are ideal for places like Mission Ridge Winter Park in Fort Capel. The park is gearing up for lots of skiing, snowboarding, and tubing. But while all the snow is exciting, it will take more than just that to get things going.
Snow's great, right? What we need and what we want are the cold temperatures. It'd be awesome if we could rely on Mother Nature for our snowfalls, but we don't. So the goal for us, or at least the want for us, is this cold snap that we've got coming in the near future that'll allow us to make snow. That's really what's critical for us, and it looks as though we're going to get it, which is a bonus. So the fresh stuff is just icing on the cake.
And last year's dry and warm weather made it hard to make snow. This year's opening date will be announced soon on Mission Ridge's website and social media. And of course, all this snow and colder weather has prompted the city of Saskatoon to figure out ways to help people who are unhoused. The The city says it plans to open overnight warming centers. The Saskatoon Indian and Métis Friendship Center opened its doors last night and will be operating as an overnight warm-up center. The city's emergency management department says these are short-term measures and more longer-term planning is needed.
I'm involved because this is a major emergency in our city. It's the need for those longer-term resources in place so we don't have to work every winter to come up with a new plan. We want a long-term plan for the individuals who need the resources.
St. Mary's Parish will be running a warming center for men. It is set to open December 9th. All public libraries will also be operating as warm-up centers this winter, and Prairie Harm Reduction has announced it's open 24 hours to operate a warming shelter until next week. We have new information now about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks in part to a Saskatchewan research team. It helped analyze hundreds of samples from Wuhan, China, and found new evidence the virus originated in animals, not a lab. Alexander Silberman reports.
Angie Rasmussen is on the hunt, searching for the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Inside Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research in Saskatoon, she analyzed hundreds of genetic samples collected from a market in Wuhan, China in January 2020.
People are coming to the market, shopping at the market, and getting exposed to the animals.
Working with an international team of scientists, Rasmussen's study identified exactly which wild animals were in the same place as the virus, which she argues is strong but circumstantial evidence of how the pandemic began.
It's very difficult to explain the evidence that we have any other way besides that virus was brought there with those live animals, and it spilled over twice, actually, into the human population at the market.
The study doesn't definitively prove the animals in those areas were infected, but some of them, like raccoon dogs, are known carriers of coronaviruses. Those findings, valuable insight for infectious disease specialists.
If you don't know the why, history tends to repeat itself in the worst ways.
Despite mounting evidence suggesting the virus jumped from animals to people in the market, many still believe it was accidentally leaked from a lab. Rasmussen's research is drawing online attacks from conspiracy groups.
We're accused of conducting a propaganda campaign, essentially, to cover up the real story of a lab leak. But that's simply not true.
Not true that Rasmussen is part of a cover-up operation, but that type of narrative spreads easily, according to this misinformation expert.
If you are a scientist that hasn't fully embraced the lab leak theory, you're the enemy, right? And that's how it's being framed now. And unfortunately, that strategy really seems to work.
As for Rasmussen, she is now testing to see which animals were possible hosts for the virus, research that could help prepare for a future pandemic response. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Saskatoon.
After days of intense pressure on Parliament Hill and beyond, Randy Boissonnault is now out of Justin Trudeau's Liberal cabinet. He resigned this afternoon as Minister of Employment after revelations about his former business and past claims of Indigenous heritage. Kate McKenna reports.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the member for Edmonton Centre has stepped down from cabinet to focus on clearing these allegations.
Today, Canada's Employment Minister, Randy Boissonnault, lost his job.
True or false, the Prime Minister should have fired that guy a long time ago.
Boissonnault has been facing new allegations almost every day. Questions about contradicting statements about his family's Indigenous heritage. For years, Boissonnault referenced having Cree family members. Earlier this month, he said they were Métis.
I apologize that I wasn't as clear as I could have been about who I am.
Media reports also found his former business identified as Indigenous-owned to bid on federal contracts when it wasn't. Yesterday, Edmonton police confirmed they're investigating Boissonnault's former business on a separate case of fraud. Boissonnault blames his former business partner for all of it.
There's two levels of scandals hit there, and I don't think it's the end of the story for Mr. Boissonnault or the Liberal Party. Who knew what exactly?
I think it was too long. I think it speaks to the lack of a strong ethical compass by the Prime Minister and the Liberal government, you know, to have tied up Parliament for this long.
New Brunswick's Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor will take on Boissonneau's portfolios of employment and official languages, in addition to her job as Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Both he and the Prime Minister obviously came to a decision, and I can only but respect that decision. But Randy Boissonneau is a colleague that I appreciate very much.
Randy Boissonneau represented Alberta in cabinet, and the only other Liberal elected in that province is George Chahal. Chahal was one of the MPs who recently stood up and told the Prime Minister he should step down as party leader. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
After the break, we enter the Manosphere, the world of wellness influencing when it comes to masculinity. So what does it all mean? Well, one expert will break it down for us when we come back. Welcome back. Today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. It's a day to remember people who have died as a result of transphobia and violence. In Manitoba, politicians raised the Transgender Day of Remembrance flag at that province's legislature. MLA Logan Oxenham is the first openly transgender person elected to a provincial legislature in Canada. Oxenham says it's an especially challenging time with rising anti-trans sentiment in recent years. He wants the trans community to know the government stands with them. Well, have you heard of the Manosphere? The term is used to describe masculinity in social media, much of which is centered around wellness influencing. Misinformation expert Timothy Caulfield explored the Manosphere in a new documentary. And a quick note, some of the video in this story might be a little bit uncomfortable for certain viewers.
This cucumber is much more satisfying to a woman than this one. Are you sunning your balls, man? Our ancient ancestors would be roaming this entire earth, completely naked.
This is how you eat a testicle in 3 steps.
What a fascinating journey, am I right? I mean, I've been studying the wellness industry really for decades, and I think it's fair to say early days, it focused largely, not entirely, but largely on women, and we have seen this fascinating shift, especially in the last couple of years, to focus on men, and it's the same formula. They're, it's influencers, it's people selling products. There's this interesting rise of political commentary in this space, which we can come back to. But when you're talking about the wellness aspect of it, it's the same formula. They create insecurity, create grievance, create anxiety, and then sell products, potions, and politics to try to save, to solve the problems that in so many respects they've created. Social change is happening. We're in at a time when we are looking at broader definitions of what it is to be a man, and whenever there's social change, even if it's for the better, that creates tension. And so I think that's part of this story too. And the other reality is that, men are, especially in the context of health, there are genuine issues there that need to be addressed. And so, you mix all that together and you get the Manosphere. So the idea of the Manosphere really is this kind of combination of influencers on social media. So think of people like Joe Rogan and Huberman, and people like even political commentators like Tucker Carlson. This combination of male voices pushing the idea, number one, that masculinity is under attack, and number two, that the world would be better if there was more manly men, and you, the consumer, would be happier and healthier. So it's this sort of combination of influencers and messengers, political commentators that are pushing that general theme. We're really seeing this shift in men voting for the Republican Party because of Manosphere sentiments. This idea that masculinity has been under attack, that men are being ignored or left behind. And that messaging really resonated. And it resonated across, I think this is really important, across the socioeconomic educational spectrum. And I think we're seeing the result of that in the United States. And to be honest with you, I think it's going to have an impact in Canada too.
That was Timothy Caulfield, a professor at the University of Alberta. You can watch his documentary Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger for free on CBC Gem. Well, in BC, high winds continued today, and crews are still working to restore power to thousands after what meteorologists termed a bomb cyclone hit the province's south coast yesterday. Trees and power lines fell, but the worst winds didn't reach inland. Speeds reaching 170 kilometers an hour were clocked at an ocean weather station west of Vancouver Island. This morning, 2 ferries stopped running and some schools closed. The bomb cyclone terminology refers to a rapid drop in barometric pressure. The storm also left 2 dead in Washington state.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Year-end clearance is on now.
Well, that system that we had here, certainly nothing like what they saw out in BC, but of course bringing quite a bit of snowfall. That has now ended. We're seeing some clearing skies through parts of the province today, but as you can see, those temperatures dropping through south and central Saskatchewan, but a nice clear night. And as we take a look at our radar and satellite, you can see those clear skies that have been moving through, especially south and central Saskatchewan. Still cloud and snow moving through portions of the north, though. That snow likely going to continue to hang around there for the next couple of days as this system remains pretty stagnant in that part of the province. Then we're watching another few rounds of snow that'll start moving through south and central Saskatchewan. I think tomorrow morning for the commute, portions of west central and southwestern Saskatchewan, you'll get some snow moving through. This model showing that things kind of start to really taper off, though, as that system moves northeastward through tomorrow afternoon. So for Saskatoon, for Regina, for Prince Albert, it's just kind of a chance of flurries, I think, for the afternoon. Maybe a little bit of snowfall here and there. Friday morning, that system finally begins to end in northern Saskatchewan. We get some clearing Friday through south and central, but then the next couple of rounds of snow, Friday night into Saturday morning, start moving into southwestern parts of the province. And then keep your eye to Alberta there. That next round of snow Saturday afternoon will eventually move our way. For northern Saskatchewan, there are some models that show that by Friday, we could be looking at over 20, maybe close to 30 centimeters. This model seems to put it kind of in that 15 to 20 centimeter range over the next couple of days here, especially into the far north. For south and central Saskatchewan, just a few centimeters of snow with those next couple of rounds over the next couple of days for southwestern Saskatchewan. But then you see that system moving in on Saturday. These numbers may still be, they're still early and they may be overshot a little bit, but definitely a good round of snow coming to especially areas that did not see that storm system over the past couple of days. I think you'll finally be getting your share of the snow. Winds nice and light tomorrow, though, for a lot of us, but in advance of that system, things will start picking up a little bit again, especially into northern Saskatchewan as we get into Friday. So for Regina, spending the day under mostly cloudy skies tomorrow, similar temperature to today, and you see that those temperatures really not going to improve all that much. We're under the influence of some more Arctic air over these next few days. I've put about maybe 5 to 10 centimeters for that system moving in Saturday before some lingering flurries on Sunday. For Saskatoon, again, there is that chance that we could see some flurries or light snow into the afternoon tomorrow, but then things clear out for Friday before that system moves in Saturday and possibly lingers with another few centimeters of snow on Sunday before temperatures drop back into the minus teens and maybe some overnight lows near minus 20 at times for the start of next week.
In all the world, you'll never find a love as true as mine.
That's country music legend George Strait with I Cross My Heart, originally released in 1992. Strait is set to receive a major trophy at the Country Music Association Awards Wednesday, the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award. Strait is currently the most nominated CMA artist of all time and has had more than 60 #1 singles over 4 decades. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Spanish tennis great Rafael Nadal has played his final match as a pro. Losing to a Dutch opponent at the Davis Cup, the crowd was clinging to every play, cheering for him after the match was over. Nadal spoke from the court and shared his thoughts as his pro career comes to a close.
Just a kid that follow their dreams, worked as hard as possible to be where I am today.
More than 11,000 people packed into the arena to watch the historic match and say their goodbyes to one of the greatest players in men's tennis. The 38-year-old announced last month that this would be his last tournament. Well, for many of us through South and Central, looking for lows tonight between about -10 and -15. We'll see some increasing cloudiness, though I think for the most part the snow has come to an end. Not the case, though, for northern Saskatchewan. Temperatures, again, in between -10 to 15, but especially in places like Wollaston Lake and Cree Lake and South End. Another 5 to 15 centimetres overnight, and then an additional 5 to 10 as we get into tomorrow. You can see where that system is pretty much just hanging in place throughout much of the day tomorrow. Temperatures in eastern sections may crack the -10 mark, but still below that if you're a little bit further west. For South and Central, tomorrow morning by the commute, again, that's when we start to see that snow begin to move into southwestern sections, but that will start to taper off as it moves northeastward. Again, for Saskatoon and Davidson outlook areas, just a chance of flurries by the afternoon. Maybe some breaks of sun a little further south, and temperatures again, for the most part, between -5 and -10. And finally tonight, a banana duct taped to a wall that has taken the art world by storm is going up for auction. It's called Comedian by Italian artist Maurizio Catalan, and it could sell for over $1 million. The buyer of this absurd artwork will get a certificate of authenticity and instructions on how to install it, but they will have to replace the banana and the duct tape regularly. Let's hope those instructions aren't too complicated. That's it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask, subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or you can download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.